that we remember the fasts and the crying and the praying and everything that goes with it. By Pesach, it's basically the liberation. Especially, according to Halacha, it's very questionable if a person is permitted on Pesach to torture himself remembering the pain. It's Pashav Heipach Halacha. He has to rejoice then. It's Inyan of Avelis. This Inyan. Tisha B'Av is the time for that. But in his Yom Tov, he has to be in a matzav of simcha. Yishamachta v'chagecha. He has to rejoice. So it's basically the redemption itself, and there's a lot to talk about. There's the redemption leaving Egypt, then there's the split of the sea. There's all the different miracles that took place, and there's certain, today, there's already many different svarim, different books that recall the 50 miracles that took place by the Yam, by the split of the sea, which is mentioned in svarim, Medrashim. So therefore, what does this mean? When we say that Hashem's words, Hashem's revelation will be revealed, this means the essence, the highest essence of godliness will be revealed. The word of Hashem, which sustains the whole creation. He created the whole world with 10 verses, and then he sustains it on a constant basis. This is what the Medrash Tilim says, and this is what the Baal Shem Tov says, that in every second it needs to be sustained and renewed. This is the words of the King of Kings. Omar Malka Chulu. A king says something, a decree. So as it says, O Kartura, he can actually tear out a mountain. There's nothing in the way of the word of a king, especially the King of Kings. Basher Varmelech Shilting, since the king is the one that rules by the word of his mouth. And that's why when it comes to the attributes, speech is considered malchus, because a king rules by the word of his mouth. That with the words of Hashem, the heavens were created, and with the wind of his mouth, all the creations were created from the Shamayim, from the heavens. That lost love in the upcoming redemption, it will be the revelation. The word of Hashem, it is revealed. Actually, they will see the word of Hashem as it sustains Bashamayim in heaven, Uva and earth, on earth, Ubechol in all the creations. So the question is, to such an extent, the revelation of the upcoming redemption, how could we still make mention of the redemption of leaving Egypt when we actually have a redemption, the upcoming redemption? It is similar to using a candle in daylight. How is it appropriate that also then Yetzias Mitzrayim should be mentioned? That leaving Egypt will be mentioned and commemorated. And this zikaron, this commemoration will also need to make have an effect, an impact on a person. On the person, as the person finds himself already in a state of a higher revelation, a higher redemption, which is the upcoming redemption. So the Rebbe begins answering, so it is known, the Nekuda, the answer in a nutshell, the word Mitzrayim literally means Egypt, but it also means Mitzorim, limitations and restrictions. Restrictions and boundaries. This is also the explanation. How could it be a literal Mitzrayim, a literal Egypt? Mitzrayim, as it is considered the lowest class in ethics, in behavior, as it's mentioned. How is there, where does this come from? What's the source of such a thing? It comes from the Maila, it comes from a higher level. The question is, how did it end up in such a way that it's the lowest, as it's mentioned in Parshas Achadeh, which is actually what we're going to be learning Right after Shabbos HaGodol, the Shabbos at Pesach. What is discussed over there? That in the ways of Mitzrayim and the Knaanit, and these two nations you shouldn't follow. You shouldn't do it because they're mamish very low class, low grade in their ethics and their whole behavior. So therefore, to Mitzrayim Ervas Haaretz, which is the lowest level in Mitzrayim in Egypt, as it is quoted yet in Miketz, when the brothers of Yosef went down for food, to shop for food in Egypt. So the question is, how could it be? How is it that in this physical world we see something that's very low class? Because it has a source in the higher worlds. Higher up, there is a Mitzrayim in Kedusha. On the level in Kedusha, on the level of sacred levels, which is more the union of holiness in the higher levels, there is also a Mitzrayim. But that Mitzrayim is not the literal Egypt that we see in this physical world, or even the negative elements of this physical Egypt. Mitzrayim Meloshem Meitzar Gvul. It all begins from boundary. There's a restriction and there's a boundary. This is what the word Mitzrayim means. It starts in Kedusha. There is a boundary in the higher levels, in the higher spiritual world and spheres, and this eventually causes that results into a literal Mitzrayim, a literal physical Mitzrayim. Okay, so for who the Meitzar of Gvul Arishan, Utzimtzum Arishan. What is the first restriction and the first limitation? Is the first Tzimtzum, which is when the light was completely full. It was before the creation of world. And Hashem then restricted the light, removed it aside, so this is considered a Tzimtzum, a contraction. A full contraction. He removed the light completely. First it was dark, which means he removed the light completely. Lifnei Seder Hashtalshalos, before the creation of the chain, before creating the chain of creation. After that, it made it possible, and it made way for light, for revelation. So the Rebbe discusses now this tzimtzum, this contraction. Hine tzimtzum harishan hu anesinas mokim. This tzimtzum harishan gave the way, paved the way. Not that this is, in other words, there's two ways of saying something. That sometimes we say, this caused it directly, then there is an indirect cause. Nesinas mokim means it was an indirect cause. Hine tzimtzum harishan hu anesinas mokim. It is an indirect cause that eventually led to it, shal yedei hishtalshelus, through the chain of mesochim uparsois vehavdoles, which we'll explain soon. Ad le'efen de'ein arech yiu ha'metzorim megvulim de'elam hazeh ha'gashmi de'elam hazeh ha'chumri. Through the chain of one world and another world, and between some of these worlds, there were certain contractions that are compared to curtains. Not a literal curtain, because we're not speaking here about anything physical. Speaking about spiritual spheres. So what we had over here it was actually a contraction which is compared to a curtain that dims the light that passes through the curtain. This is the purpose and the function of that contraction. In addition to that, there were parsois. Parsoa means a parsa, something, an obstacle which is in the way. Parsois, there's different levels of parsois. One, just to mention one level of a parsa would be, for example, Chassidus explains that stones are compared to letters. Ashes are compared to stones, stones are compared to letters. Therefore, if you have, for example, a whole bunch of letters that are not written in the normal sequence, they're called Scrabble. When something is in Scrabble, we can't figure out what is